My name is Jessica, and I am 16 years old living with my parents. I used to have a younger sister, Mary, who tragically went missing in the woods 2 years ago. She was only 11 years old when this happened. This devastated me, my mom, my dad, but as time goes by, my parents seem to have recovered well and moved on. But me, it's been hard. Before she went missing, my mom and my dad tasked me to watch over my sister while she's playing around. I took one look away, and then she was gone. I thought my parents would blame me for her disappearance, which they did, but surprisingly, not too much. They forgave me after 1 year, but me, I didn't forgive myself. I still blame myself for her disappearance. If I had watched her without taking one single look away, I would still see her to this day. That is, until 2 weeks ago. It was nighttime. I was home alone during that day. My parents told me they're going out to see some old friends. I pretty much had the whole house to myself. Anyways, by the time it hit at 7 p.m., I was watching movies on Netflix. It was also raining at night. It must have been around an hour until I heard a knock on the door. I was confused, so I got up from the couch and walked to the door. I looked through the peephole and saw nothing. It must have been some kids doing ding-dong ditching. But really? At 7 p.m., shouldn't they be asleep by now? I didn't want to keep questioning myself, so I went back to the living room, sat on the couch, and continued scrolling through Netflix. A few minutes later, I heard the doorbell ring. Really? Again? I questioned myself. I paused the film, stood up from the sofa, and walked to the door. When I once again looked at the peephole, I was terrified, frightened. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was my sister, Mary. It couldn't be. What frightened me the most is her appearance. She had decaying skin, ripped clothes, and her eyes. It looked like it was all white, mixed with yellow with a dot as a pupil. She was looking right at the peephole where I'm seeing her, as if she can see me. Mary then smiles at me in a very creepy way. I walked back a little bit, processing what I just witnessed. I took a deep breath and looked through the peephole again, and she was still there, staring right at me, smiling. I saw her teeth, all yellow and chipped at the same time. She then said,
"Let's play, Jessica. Just you and me."
"This isn't real, this isn't real," I kept saying to myself. I responded, "You're not real." Then Mary responded,
"But I'm right here, though."
I still wouldn't believe this is her. I told her to just leave my house. You are not my sister. It was dead silence for about a few seconds. I was about to say something until I heard intensive banging on the door. I hear her screaming. Then I heard her say,
"Let me in. Let me in."
Let me in. Let me in. Let me play with you.
I walked further back at the door, terrified, as she kept saying, "Let me in, let me play with you," with a demonic voice this time. I got out my phone and called 911. "Hello, 911, what's your emergency?" they said. I was explaining my situation while there was still banging on my door. As I kept explaining my situation, I may have had the scariest and creepiest phone call of my life. I was caught off by 911 saying this.
Don't be scared, Jessica. Just let her in.
I was even more shocked and terrified. I dropped my phone and ran straight to my room. I shut my door and locked it. Laying my back at the door, crying, I was begging it for all to stop, to go away. But it turns out my fake sister isn't going away, as I heard footsteps coming upstairs and going straight to my door. There was silence. I only heard rain dropping down hard. There was one bang on my door. I was getting ready to not let anything in my room. I ignored my fake sister's voice. I was still holding the door shut.
Jessica, you will be one of us. Come play with me.
Stop it. Stop it. Get out of my head, I said.
I am not in your head.
I am here.
I thought I would die that day. If I died, I would be with my sister. I thought of that. I spoke loud so she can at least hear me. I said, "Mary, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry you were taken. Blame me all you want. I deserve it. It should have been me that would disappear, not you. I love you so much, Mary." Silence filled the room again after what I said to Mary. In front of me, I see a dark figure moving towards me. I bring my legs closer to my chest as it got closer. I realized it was Mary. She was staring right down at me. I was thinking she might take me, but then I hear sirens outside my house. I took away my attention to her and put my ears close to the door, and heard officers coming upstairs. I turned my head to see Mary, but she was gone. I stood up, opened my door, and identified myself to the cops, saying I was the one who called and was hiding. I couldn't believe it was finally over and I was safe. I told the 2 officers that there was an intruder. I lied about seeing my dead sister who was trying to either hurt me or see me, because no one wouldn't believe what I saw, even my parents. Speaking of my parents, they came 30 minutes later, worried sick. I did lie to them about seeing Mary again. I wasn't ready to tell them yet, but I'm hoping one day I will tell them what really happened that night. The night where my dead sister wanted to come in and play. It was Wednesday, October 5th, 2016, where the first time I ever saw a clown. This was during the clown epidemic where almost everyone in my school was aware and scared of. But for me, I didn't think too much of it. I didn't care about it because I didn't believe I encountered a clown until that day. I was a junior in high school when this happened. It was the last period. Class was just over. I walked out of the class to the hallways where I went to my locker and put my books in. I closed my locker, locked it, and walked out of the campus. I usually walk to school and walk back home. The walk is around 5 minutes total. Anyways, I walked to a side road leading to my house. Whenever I look to my left, there is always a watch full of trees leading to the woods. I don't go there because I just usually pass by it every time I come back from school. I continued walking until I heard a psst. It came from the woods. I tilted my head a little to the left. What I saw creeped me out. It creeped me the hell out. In the corner of my eye, I could see a colorful figure with red hair. This was a clown, and it was calling me to go to him by walking to the woods. I did see the news before about clowns luring children into the woods, kidnapping them. I was in that type of situation now, and I had to act fast. I ran forward and straight without looking back. I was quite an athlete during my junior year, so stamina almost wasn't really a problem. After a few minutes of running and arriving home, I got out my keys and got into my house terrified. I shut the door, locked it, and looked at every window of my house, making sure I wasn't followed. I was scaring my mom as she saw me doing something I had never done in my life. I told her about what happened and she freaked out. She was glad I returned home safe and wasn't harmed. She did call the police and filed a report about a clown in the woods. I wasn't able to sleep at night as that moment a few hours ago stuck up to my mind. I was able to sleep after a few hours. Next day, I was in my second period class doing assignments. I did tell a few friends about my encounter with a clown in the woods. Some didn't believe it, and some were joking, but I didn't care. Anyways, I asked the teacher if I could go to the bathroom. He said yes, so I got out of my desk and walked out of the classroom. I headed to the bathroom and went to one of the stalls. After I was done, the announcer turned on. Teachers and staff, this is a lockdown. Give me your full attention. We are in an emergency lockdown. Lock your doors and stay inside until further notice. I got scared. Is there a school shooting about to happen? I asked myself. I washed my hands and opened the door slightly just to get a look at what's happening. I looked left and I saw no one in the hallways. It was silent. Nothing. Then I heard screaming. Echoes of scream coming down to my right. I looked to my right with only my head peeking out of the door. I was terrified, traumatized. At the very end of the hallway to my right, I saw the same clown from the woods yesterday. And this time, he had blood all over his clothes. He was holding a hatchet with the blade covered in blood. The worst part is, I saw a body lying down on the ground next to him. He killed someone. I didn't know what to do. It seemed like he didn't see me as he was staring at the dead body. He then looked up and quickly turned his face to me. He saw me. I shut the door, laid my back on it, and feared for the worst. I hear echoes of footsteps coming towards the bathroom door. I stood up and looked from underneath. He's in front of it. I had to act quick or I would be done for. I walked back and ran straight to the door, opening it with force. The clown grunted as the door slammed to his face. I ran left so fast and took a right. While running, I stumbled across a locker with no locks. The lockers in my school were big enough for a person to hide in. I opened the locker, walked in, closed the locker door, and hid. I was looking through the ventilation gaps of the locker. I only see a few lockers and a classroom right next to it. I hear footsteps nearby. It had to be that clown again. He was now humming. I was praying to God that he wouldn't find me. He stopped walking and humming. But I don't think he was looking at me, because he was looking at the classroom that was right in front of me. He walked right at the door. He started banging on them with his fist, so loud he started screaming. I was horrified. I can hear screaming behind that door. He was also crying. He broke into the classroom and started swinging his bloody hatchet on the students and teachers that were in there. Some students ran out. I got out of the locker and ran with them. We all ran as fast as we could until we saw the doors that led outside of campus. We opened the doors and we saw cops and police cars parked in front of the school. An officer came to us and asked if we were all okay and brought us to safety. I was safe, including some other students. There were maybe around 8 students I ran with. Eventually, after a few hours, they caught the clown, and we saw him in handcuffs being escorted by police officers. The clown looked at no one but me. He smiled at me, creepily, before he got into the back of the police car. The clown's identity is unknown as police investigated him. As to where he lives, where he comes from, how old he is, nothing came up. The clown killed a total of 8 people. I believe I saw the janitor's dead body when I first saw the clown in the school, and I believe the other 7 were in that classroom when I was hiding in that locker. School was canceled for a week after that, and I believe I needed that. This day will be traumatizing to me for the rest of my life. Talking about this still sends chills to my spine, as I saw the brutal crimes this guy did. I hope no one else can experience the fear I felt and the horrifying memories that will be stuck for you to remember. I never thought I would encounter the most scariest moments in my life. My name is Joshua, and I am 23 years old. It starts off from me driving back home from my parents' house. The drive between my house and my parents was around 4 hours. After 2 hours of driving, it was almost 2 a.m., and I was getting tired. I exited the highway to the streets where I stopped at a stoplight. While waiting for the stoplight to turn green, I stumbled across a motel. I thought of staying there for the night because it was raining. The light turned green and I drove to the motel parking lot. I got out of the car, went to the trunk, opened it, and grabbed my suitcase. I walked inside of a small room to the front desk. There was a woman there. She welcomed me and asked if I'm checking in. I said yes. It was a few more minutes for the process to check. She gave me my key and I thanked her and said goodnight. I got outside and started walking to my room. On the way there, I stumbled across a man leaning on the wall, smoking. I minded my own business and tried to walk by him, which I did. I found my room and used my key to open it. The room was not that bad. It was clean and really chill. I closed my door to get settled. I am a light sleeper, and I stood up frightened. I grabbed my phone and checked the time. It was exactly 3 a.m. in the morning. Who the hell knocks at the door at 3 a.m.? I got off the bed and walked slowly to the window next to my door. I opened the blinds just to get a little bit of a peek. I wish I never did that. The second I opened the blinds, I saw a dark cloaked figure with his face only visible. His face was indescribable and unexplainable. His smiling teeth were long and crooked. His eyes only had a dot as a pupil. I got so scared that I screamed and fell backwards, crawling away. I stood up and kept myself together. I went to get my phone back from the bed, but I stopped. The reason for this is that I saw a really creepy looking doll just sitting next to my phone on the bed. I swear, I never saw that doll in my bed nor in my room. I approached it, slowly. This felt like I was in some type of horror movie. I was so close to getting my phone. Before I even grabbed it, I smacked the plushie doll away from my phone. I wish I hadn't done that. After a few seconds, I was thrown to a wall. I think I bruised myself up. I was thrown across the room. I then started floating, levitating. From the corner of the room, a very dark and cloaked figure walks towards me. It was the same one that was in the front door knocking. He was now holding the same doll I smacked away. I couldn't do anything because I was still floating. I thought this would be the end for me, until I fell down and really messing up my two legs. I stood up, limping, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. I looked at the walls in my room, and all of it just said, "Get out." Unlike in horror movies, characters would stay still and not listen. Instead, I shoved my clothes and belongings into my suitcase, zipped it closed, and put on my shoes. I got out of the room and wanted to go to the front desk to get properly checked out, but once I was about to go into the room, I looked at the window. There were 6 people wearing dark robes, and each one was wearing a skull mask. They were formed in a circle, raising their arms and chanting something. It was dark and there were candles everywhere. It seemed like it was some sort of demonic cult. At the center of the circle, the ground was covered in blood, drawn into some sort of morning star. A man was laying at the center too, being lit on fire. The man that was being burned was the same man that was smoking I walked past earlier. I was horrified. I heard screaming. I got out my phone recording. But as I soon hit the record button, the cult lowers their arms and they look straight at me. They saw me. I got frightened. I ran straight to my car, getting my keys and unlocking it. I threw my suitcase to the back seat, got on the driver's seat, started the car, and drove away. It was raining hard. I looked at the side mirror, and I saw the 6 cult members. They were all in a row, staring at me while I drove away. I drove for 2 hours way past bedtime, beyond terrified. Thankfully, I returned home safely after that. I told my parents what happened the next day, and they were terrified, but were glad that I got home safely. Almost every day and now, I think of that motel as it is stuck to my mind. I rewatched the video I captured of that cult, burning that poor man alive. I hope no one else goes to the motel and experiences the horror that resides there.